Welcome to the World of Horror Podcast, episode 117. I'm Mom.
And I'm Mac.
This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror. Fear is universal, but we are not afraid of subtitles. WoHos! This week, our dear friends Georgia and John Macey from the Comfort Films podcast are here to talk to us about a pair of movies that mean the world of horror to them. Before we get into it, fair warning, these discussions will include spoilers and language which may not be suitable for all listeners.
Fuck.
Also,
like that.
Apologies to Francophones. I will be butchering all the French names. John, Georgia, welcome back to the World of Horror podcast. How are you?
We're great. Thanks for having us. Happy to see you guys again.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, this is good stuff. Because we talk about comforting things, and it's pretty good because we talked about vehicles with you on our show, with Talladega Nights, and now we're back with vehicles to talk about the opposite of the good times.
Yeah.
But really suspenseful.
Don't go fast.
Exactly. Ricky Bobby would last not long at all in either of these films.
If you're not first, you're last does apply, though, to this.
That's true.
That's so true.
Well, before we get into the films, do y'all want to tell the unfortunate or the fortunate people who have not yet heard your podcast what it's all about?
Sure. Comfort Films Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Comfort Films Podcast or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We are a movie podcast and we do a mostly weekly show right now, unless something happens, where we talk about what we like to call the mac and cheese of movies, which are the movies that you just really find comforting, like a big bowl of mac and cheese or mashed potatoes, and you keep wanting to go back for seconds and thirds. Sometimes it's just the two of us. We're a married couple. Sometimes we bring in guests like you guys to chat with us. And, sometimes we pick really traditional comfort type movies. Sometimes we pick something that doesn't seem very comforting, but we can reason it out and explain why it's comforting to us. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about the good times. I mean, I've seen entirely too many movies in my lifetime. I mean, I don't know, there are thousands. I try to list it out, and then I'll just keep digging to find more, and I'll be like, oh my God, I saw that too. So it's just like everything ties together. I don't know what to do with this knowledge. I don't know that it helps.
Podcast was the only option for you. Yeah.
Pretty much. It was...
John's like a human IMDb database over here. I don't really look things up. I just ask him, who was in this movie? And then he just rattles it off. So, yeah, that was the only outlet for him to utilize that skill.
Yeah, because I would stop people in the street and just try to talk to them for an hour or two at a time. Hey, do you like movies? Here, let me tell you about 6 of them for about 4 or 5 hours. People didn't like it much, so... we tried it this way. Made it optional.
Well, I was wondering what your history is with the 2 films that y'all selected for today.
So, Wages of Fear and Sorcerer are 2 movies that we both really like. I mean, they're basically the same story based on a Georges Arnaud novel, which I have not read.
I have not either.
And probably won't because it's very suspenseful, and I've seen these movies and they are super suspenseful. These are movies that we love and we've watched multiple times, but probably wouldn't do on our show because they are the literal opposite of comfort.
Yeah. Nail biter.
bleak films. But they're also super suspenseful, and we really love suspense. So I would say for me, that's my main driver in loving these movies, is that particularly for me, The Wages of Fear is so suspenseful. There's just scenes of that where I'm cringing and covering my eyes and just nail biting and, any thing that you can think of that you would do when you're freaking out. And so that's why we kind of thought about this, because it's not really traditionally a horror film, but it's very suspenseful and gives you those kind of horror fear feelings
Oh, God.
when you're watching it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I love movies about vehicles. I love a good car chase, right? Like I love Bullet. That's an example, right? So it's like, but the big chase is just like a couple minutes in the middle. And it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But this is like an hour, of like ice road truckers. It's just like, are they going to make it? I don't know. So it's like, okay, we have that, which is incredible. And then you have the base with this story that's pretty heavy duty. I mean, we're talking about class quite a bit. We are talking about so much that when we talked about it initially, it's like, oh, I picked up on a few of these themes. But when we went back through, I was just like, oh my God, it's philosophy. Oh my God, it's philosophy. Oh
And
my
it's
God.
topical.
Yes.
Like even the 1953 Wages of Fear has lines where I was like, what? About like if there's oil around, there's an American, I was like, oops, I'm feeling sane. My country's feeling sane right now.
They're paying us to be afraid. That's the line that just blew my mind. I'm like, they're paying us to be afraid. And I was just like, oh no. That was like, wow. You just do crap work. Like you have these things, like you see the oil company in this movie, and this is so creepy. So like the oil company will pay its people that they think are valuable or important. I'll pay you whatever you want. I'll pay you double. I can't do it. It's a suicide mission. Okay. So let's just get some local people. We'll pay them absolutely nothing. And let's also put the responsibility on them. When they're going around town and they're like, well, we want to open the doors back up so everyone can get back to work, but we need to solve this problem first. So we need volunteers for a very dangerous mission. Yeah, it's just like there's no winning. And will Dominguez be able to cash that check? I don't know. I doubt it.
Does he even make it out of that bar? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right?
But, that's the thing. Like, the movies are complex. They're suspenseful. They're topical. They both have really some seriously good acting.
Oh, yeah.
And great, looking films. And they really just make you think a lot. And that's something that I think both of us really love in a movie. Obviously, sometimes you don't want that and you just want to sit and, enjoy something. But we like an intellectually challenging film, and these definitely have that aspect to them.
Well, they also have, particularly Sorcerer, the bigger the screen you watch it on, the more invested you become. That was one of the strangest things. We got the chance to see this at the movie theater out here. Oh my God. So it's like 50 times more suspenseful. It's like we've seen this movie so many times. Are they going to cross that bridge over troubled waters? I don't know.
That scene was really stressful.
Oh my God. It's just like, it's so big. It's just like right in front of your face. And you're like, wow. Because we watch Sorcerer on our smaller television in our bedroom. And then we put it on in the bigger television in the living room. And just that difference made it so I saw so many more things. There are all these Easter eggs in Sorcerer that like go back to Wages of Fear. And I didn't catch them until the bigger screen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's my first time watching both of these. So if there's any that you can think of, please let me know, because I obviously would not catch it. But I watched them like back to back, and I did find it was interesting the things that they did, I don't know, sprinkle in or keep in, or the things that they changed.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff that like, okay, it gets so wild. Like I've got like all these notes. Yeah. I'll start with the Serrano story, because the Serrano story for me, I don't know about you guys, that is the story I am the most invested in.
Well, let's first couch that in Sorcerer. One of the big differences between Wages of Fear and Sorcerer is that Sorcerer starts with like these backstories. So the 4 guys that you get to know, through the drive, you actually find out how they got to this town. Whereas in Wages of Fear, everybody's just already there. You can kind of maybe extrapolate what happened to them, but it doesn't make it clear. In Sorcerer, it does. And I think that really enriches the story in a lot of ways, because you understand what these people have lost. And, it also lends it to more of a feeling of these people being really symbolically in purgatory. So, yeah, I just wanted to give you that setup.
No, thank you because that's a huge point. That is the big difference between the two films. And what impresses me is that I feel that I get more information out of Sorcerer than I do Wages of Fear. And I mean, we've cut off nearly half an hour of runtime. Now, I mean, that being said, I feel like when you see Sorcerer, I feel that they took it for granted that you already watched Wages of Fear. So, okay, so here's, you know what, I'm even going to jump back another step since we're on this. So, one of the things that we see at the beginning of Wages of Fear is we see, like, these kids playing.
It's one kid, this little half-naked kid.
Yep.
Who kind of has some cockroaches on a string, which is next level disgusting.
Yes.
Right?
I hate
That was shocking to me, honestly.
Yes.
And
It's like, how did they get that?
Oh, God.
So foul. But yeah.
No, keep going.
Well, no, but he's got them kind of tied together, so they're like fighting or something. Like, first of all, like, I don't know why you do this.
It's because it's
like
symbolic.
A roach circus?
Well, okay, no, I know what the film did it, but I don't know why the little half-naked kid is, I mean...
He was like,
he's got to have something better to do than tying up ginormous cockroaches and kind of forcing
he needs
them
the, what's that toy that was like the hoop? He needs the hoop and the stick.
Like, give this kid anything, like a ball, like, I don't know.
Pants.
Just, he could draw in the sand with a stick, like, anything's got to be better than this.
That's good. Well, yeah, it's just like, I didn't even think about them being tied together, and it's like, the drivers. But then, what is this like? Okay, well, it's like Wild Bunch. So Wild Bunch was, all these kids playing with scorpions and like setting what they were like in some grass. They set it on fire around the grounds.
They threw them in an anthill.
Oh, Jesus. Yes.
So they were watching these scorpions get attacked by ants. And I guess that was inspired by this movie, actually, because they, it opens with these kids, this kid torturing bugs. So in that, they have like kids torturing a scorpion, and it's already like, what you're getting. Like, this is like so bleak and negative, because you're even seeing like children, or a child in this case, just enacting violence, with other living things. And, so there's no childhood innocence. This place that they're in, Las Piedras, I think it's called, is not an innocent place. It's a terrible place. Even the kids are kind of corrupted by the horribleness of it.
Well, it's... Oh, go ahead.
I feel like the setup in Wages of Fear, I really liked. I wish almost that they would have added the extra 30 minutes to Sorcerer of all this time spent at the original like location, just because I don't know, seeing like the mud and just seeing everybody like, I don't know, it's very bleak, but then there's also little parts of people trying to have fun, like dancing or like playing games with each other. But I don't know, I feel like it really hammers home how bleak everyone's situation is, that would make them be like, okay, I know there's a good chance I'm going to die, but like, okay, alternative is being dead alive almost here.
Yes. No, that's a great point. I mean, it is a trade-off. I feel like Friedkin is much more, let's get to the power drive in the second half, and let's give you the stakes of who's coming. I mean, what's interesting, like, too, is like, so we have Wages of Fear, then we have these kids in Wild Bunch, and then the person that actually wrote the script for Sorcerer, an adaptation of an adaptation, is Waylon Green, same guy that wrote Wild Bunch. So it actually, it brings it back around. It's like, what do we have in Wild Bunch? We have a bunch of guys that are done They're over the hill and they're going for one last score. And that's what we have here. Except, again, this is even more bleak. There is really no teamwork in the film. And I think in Sorcerer, they make a point of this. The only time we see teamwork in Sorcerer is when they use the nitro to blow up that huge tree.
Yeah.
There's that quick montage and everything is great. And you think, oh, wow, if these guys actually work together, they could rule the world. But no, they're too greedy.
No, I mean, that's just not who they are. And that's not what people are like. And I think that's the thing we have with both Clouseau, who directed Wages of Fear, and Friedkin. So we've talked a lot on our show whenever we do a 70s movie about how 70s movies are just generally bleak. Like, I don't know what was going on in the 70s. I'm pretty happy I came along late in the decade because it does not seem like things were going well.
And Amadou kind of looks like Al Pacino.
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
But, 70s movies are like notoriously bleak. And then with Clouseau doing Wages of Fear in the 50s, it's like super existentialist. Like there's so much like existentialism going on. Like, I think Mario even says there's no exit at one point or something like that, like Sartre. And I'm like, oh man, he's just not even hiding the existentialism here. It's just like hanging a big sign on the movie. There is nothing good, We even have like a giant rock like Sisyphus. A rock. I'm like, wow, he just took all of it and threw it on the screen, and I was pretty impressed by that. But yeah, these are super bleak films that show not necessarily that people are born bad or that, everybody has to be bad, but just that like we've made the world bad. Like the world isn't necessarily inherently bad, but it's been made bad by people, by greed, and by people's worst, impulses being played out over and over and over again.
That's smart.
Especially in a capitalist system, in the Wages of Fear, especially. I was thinking about, what's his name, O'Brien, the guy who sort of sets up the whole, situation. And he's so cold, he's just like, and just the fact that they have two teams going. So
because definitely one of them's going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man.
And of course, the one that gets blown up is Bimba and
Mario. No, Luigi.
Yeah,
Mario and Luigi
with the cement in his lungs.
Luigi was my favorite. I saw the writing on the wall. Like, I knew Luigi from the get. I was like, this guy's a goner. But the way that they did that was so... I was just telling my boyfriend earlier, I thought that scene was maybe one of the best because kind of like you were saying, the Sisyphean boulder, it's like they conquer that. They did it. And even they think he's dead. No, he's not dead. He made it. And the whole time I'm thinking, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Because at some point somebody's going to blow up. But they give me this feeling of relief of like, okay, well, for now, everything's fine. Nope. That's when he dies. That's when the car blows up. I thought that was so great. Like when it's focusing on Joe and Mario and like you just see the flash of light and then you see the explosion in the distance. Like it literally shocked me, which I thought was so amazing because I was waiting for it the whole time. And yet it still shocked me.
Yeah, well, like the tobacco kind of blows out of the cigarette that Joe is rolling right before the flash. Oh, man, it really just slugs you right in the gut.
It does, because Luigi was my favorite. I thought he was such a sweetie. He had such a sweet face. I was so pissed off at Joe for being such an asshole to him because and Mario too. I'm like, why'd you take the guy's clothes? He worked hard for him.
That's the thing with poor Luigi. Like Luigi, even at the beginning of the movie, Luigi has already sacrificed himself for the system. Like he's the one that's been working and has money, and Mario's just been kind of sponging off him. But Luigi has like the cement, I don't know. I kept saying he has mesothelioma. Like he may be entitled to financial compensation. But he's already going to die because he has been working his body to death for what? When you start thinking about it, for what? Like in the truck, he talks about having this dream of, I'm going to get married and I'm going to get a house and all this stuff. Like,
and he already knows it's not going to happen because they
Yeah.
only gave him like 6 months or something.
Yeah. And he, but he has this dream in his head that this is something that he could do. And it's just, it really does kick you right in the face.
It does. It's like we always hear, our whole lives, if you work hard, anything is possible. This is a person that couldn't have possibly worked any harder. And, and for what? And I mean, the other thing I want to bring up, the Mario Luigi situation, particularly in Wages of Fear, is I'm like, okay, are Mario and Luigi together? That's key. But I kept like wondering that, like, are they together, but like just for now until they can leave? Like, that's the thing I was feeling. Like, I felt that there were like some really strong relationships between the men in this. And it was like they kept in both films throwing things in to like hint to the fact that they were a couple or they were a married couple. Like, I kept trying to wrap my head around it because it's like we have like a navigator and we have a driver. And there's one particular scene in Sorcerer where I think of where, Roy Scheider is like, I need you to tell me where to go. So it's like they need each other. And it's like one can't exist without the other. So I'm like, is it, I don't know, is it ego? And then, I don't know, logic? Or is it, what is it? Like, what's the relationship? Like, I was so confused because when Luigi goes to the bar because Mario is with Joe, I felt like Luigi was like, oh, all right, I'm going to get some drinks for the folks. I'm having a great time. Me and the boys are loving it. Look at my suit. Hope you guys are having fun.
Yeah.
So that's the vibe I got.
Well, Mario is always looking for somebody to take care of him, it seems like.
Yep.
So he had Luigi, and then when Joe rolls up in town looking like he has money, which he doesn't, but pretending to or seeming to.
And everybody falls for it.
Yeah, then all of a sudden, well, it's just because that's the way he acts,
Yeah.
But Mario suddenly is just like, Luigi doesn't look so great anymore. Like he goes after Joe, thinking that Joe is going to be a better choice. But Joe is just full of it.
Joe's the worst.
He literally is the worst.
The worst.
He is. He's terrible.
That flip was so dramatic, though, because I mean, what good acting? He does breathe into town, true. And he's bribing the guy at customs. Not really customs, but and he says something like, let's get a taxi, it'll look better that way or something. It's all about like appearances.
Even though they drive like 5 feet.
Yeah. It's the big entrance. Yeah.
But then in the truck he's like scared to death, and he doesn't, he's scared at every turn. And so he just totally flips, and Mario's like, oh man, I backed the wrong horse. And then spends like basically the rest of the trip severely punishing this guy. Like,
I think maybe Mario's the worst, actually.
Mario definitely. I think I
I
agree. Like, I think what's happened is the whole time we've thought that Joe was the worst, but then Mario becomes the ultimate worst. And then, like, when you get to the end of the movie, just don't even get me started. Like, Mario, come on, guy. Like, you've escaped. You're, like, done. You hit the goal, and then you're just like, let me act like an absolute idiot and get killed because I'm so stupid. Mario sucks.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's such a user. You're absolutely right. Because he doesn't, I don't know that he gives a shit about anyone. Like, look at the way he treats his girlfriend. What was that shit? He opens the door. She falls into the mud.
In her white dress that she made.
Yes. And
she's so
what is
proud
wrong
of it.
with you?
Well, I mean, and their relationship dynamic is disgusting from the get-go, where she like walks up. I mean, she like crawls up to him like a dog or a cat or something. God. and is like rubbing on his leg with her head, and he's petting her head like she's just an animal.
Yeah.
And then we find out that he actually kind of looks at her like she's an animal. He calls her savage. He just doesn't even think she's a real human. So yeah, there's nothing good about this guy.
Well, then the guy that runs the bar is kind of like prototype John Lovitz.
That guy was a piece of work.
Yeah, like
that. I loved him. He was very captivating. The actor, he did that role so well.
He did, yeah. But he did look like John Lovitz when he came out the first time, and John said that, and I died. I was laughing so hard.
That's the only thing.
He's just got like pajamas on all the time. Like, what is going on with this guy?
Well, they're hanging out at a bar, like in the original, that's called the Black Pirate, and then in Sorcerer, it's the Pirate. So it's like we're hanging out at a pirate bar. So none of these people are good stuff.
Well, it made me think of, I don't know, weirdly, Casablanca.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it's another situation where there's like all these people that are kind of in limbo again. They're in this place that they're not really from. We don't know how they got here. We don't know what they're doing here, but they can't get out. Like, there's no way out. And, no matter how hard you try or how much you do, you're just still stuck there. And it's like corrupt and just a horrible place. And that's what it made me think of. But I think I'd rather be at Rick's than at the Black Pirate. At least in Casablanca, there's some good music.
Well, there's Nazis in both places too.
True.
Let's remember that. Yeah.
I also thought of the Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Yes.
And how in the beginning, Humphrey Bogart and what's his name are just like trying to take any jobs. Well, Humphrey Bogart isn't. He wants to win the lottery. But, these Americans not in a place that's not their country, just trying to like get by and not doing very well at it. Fortunately, Walter Houston comes along, and so that's when the fun begins. I love that movie.
Yves Montand even looks kind of Bogart-esque, I think.
Yes.
I thought about that a lot.
Yeah, he has that look. Like, he looks like so many people. That was one of the things about Wages of Fear, is that there are so many people in this that look like people that we've seen many times thereafter. Like our O'Brien in Wages of Fear. He looks like, Lee Cobb?
Yeah, Lee J. Cobb.
Lee J. Cobb. And it was like, it took me forever to like figure out who I thought he was like.
Kind of a bloated version of Lee J. Cobb.
Well, I thought about George C. Scott.
I thought about George C. Scott, yeah.
But then I was like, well, no, I mean, this guy is still a prick. But if George C. Scott was a prick, boy, would we know. You know what I mean? Because he has such a cutting manner. Like this guy, the guy that played O'Brien, you felt his authority. You knew he didn't care. But it wasn't like he was going to like slowly behead you. Like that's like George C. Scott. Like I think he had like a wall of human heads. Like Sin City, that was inspired by George C. Scott's Rumpus Room.
George C. Scott would not have been so passive in his just destruction as O'Brien was. I mean, he's not as cold. He's more of like a hot, angry guy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, O'Brien is a really interesting character, though, because he is just like totally all about the business and nothing else. Like, that's all he's thinking about and all he cares about. And it's like, anybody is expendable if it gets, if it saves them money. Like, that's all they care about. Is like, what can we do to save money? And unfortunately, I feel like that is constantly playing out in real life. So, seeing it on screen in this kind of bold way is pretty disturbing.
It's weird.
Yeah, when I saw this in the wiki, and Mom, I see you have it in the trivia. I feel like the fact that the U.S. was like, oh, we need to cut some scenes because it's anti-American is really like telling on themselves of like, okay, so you agree, like you're like this, like, so yeah, this happens. I feel like that's so, I don't know, doing that is so, yeah, like I said, just telling on yourself, because yeah, this does happen. It is a real thing. And the fact that you feel the need to censor it is just like, so you don't want people to know
Yeah,
or think about it.
like we're still trying to pretend that we don't do this. So let's cut this part out so people don't understand,
Yeah.
that this is exactly how it is. I mean, and yeah, there is that line, I think Mario says, wherever there's oil, there are Americans. And I guess I didn't really know that that was like a thing that far back in time. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, since like the 90s, when, Gulf War stuff started happening, I think we started to realize, what our dependence is on oil in this country. But we're even talking about back in the 50s that people could see, like, and that America had a greed reputation even at that point, to the point where they had to censor it because they didn't really feel good about how revelatory that was. I mean,
Yeah.
ooh, harsh.
It's telling.
It is.
Well, there's the line in Sorcerer that I really like that's like, the president can't help us because if he did, it would be too overt that he, is with us. It's like, oh, okay. It's just like, that's it.
Well, and in the 70s, like this came out in 1977, there was like gas shortages and things like that going on. So at that time, this was hugely topical, and to the point where I think that's one of the reasons I've read that it wasn't very successful, because people were kind of tired of living this life. They didn't want it reflected in their films. So everybody was going to see Star Wars instead of this.
Yeah.
Because it came out around the same time, and they're like, oh, escapist fantasy in space. I'll have one,
yes, please.
one for that movie instead, please.
Right. Yeah, this came out in June of 77. Yeah, that's, wow. That's such a wild, like, summer movie. That's very bold.
Yeah,
That's very bold. Like, I like the movie a ton, but it's just like, wow. If you're going up against these other blockbusters, I mean, William Friedkin, his previous film before this was The Exorcist, which was, of course, massive smash, right? So then, they have Sorcerer, which is just so much different. But with Sorcerer, we do bring in magic. And that's one of the things that when I was looking, I did not know anything about. I didn't understand it. Now, I'm sure I'm going to say the name wrong, so anyone jump in. So the barmaid in Sorcerer, her name is Agrippa. And then this was actually the same name of a philosopher from a very long time ago who had this idea that, like, now I'm really going to butcher this because I just put my toe in and I'm like, oh my God, it had something to do with how, like, natural magic was something that was like a demonic force, but it was from God. That was one of the big things that I realized in the film that was so different, because when we have Wages of Fear, that role was played by a younger woman. It was very, overtly sexual. And then we have this character in Sorcerer, and they went with a person who's seen a lot more life, great actor, really cool. And the guys in there still really connected with her. One of the things that really stuck with me is when Serrano is getting ready to get on the truck. I had to keep pausing it because she gives him something. I'm like, what did she give him? I think she actually gave him a cross, is what it looks like, that I could see from the top. I read online, somebody said it was a crucifix. Could be. But I think it was a cross. And both teams in Sorcerer run into people that I feel aren't there. The first one is, in Serrano's truck, which actually has Sorcerer under the door. They drive by, this face that we see, and it's like, okay, then they run into this dude that's just being funny and playing around running in the street, right? And they're like screaming at him, get out of the road, what are you doing? And this guy just seems like he's not real. He's just like a trickster.
It's like the coyote from Native American
mythology
is what I was thinking about. Yeah, he's just jumping around and waving his arms and acting.
And he's like everywhere
crazy.
somehow.
Yes. Yeah. It's just like, oh, wow. Okay. And he's like running, on the pipeline. And it's just like, okay, so we have that experience. And so then the other team that has Dominguez, it's like they're in the rain. They don't know which path to take. I love this. The arrow was pointing down like to hell, which I think is really good. And then there's this guy just kind of hiding in the bushes, and they ask him, which way to Poza Rica. And, he's like, Poza Rica is dead. And so I was like, oh, I gotta look that up. I'm like, what does that actually translate to? And it translates to rich picture. So it's like the good times are dead, essentially, is what this guy is telling us, that there's nothing left. So both of them, I feel like, are giving them information about their journey. But the guy that, Serrano and Nilo run into is a lot more playful. Whereas the man that's in the woods, well, not the woods, in the jungle is scary. Like that's scary information.
Dominguez and Nilo are with both, actually.
You're right.
Yeah, Dominguez and Nilo run into the guy in the woods when they're trying to decide.
I did the same thing.
The jungle when they're trying to go. Well, it's the same thing. When they're trying to figure out which forest to go. It's the wilderness.
There you go.
Wilderness area.
Okay.
And then Dominguez and Nilo are also the ones who are driving when the trickster guy runs out into the street.
But that happens. That's it. But
street being a loose term there, by the way, I guess.
Dirt road.
Heavily trafficked metropolis. But when the sorcerer truck goes by that symbol is when we cut to, Dominguez and Nilo. Okay. That's why I thought
Serrano and what's the other guy?
Serrano and
Masson or
Cassim.
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 Yes. The names in this, man, I blow it left and right because everybody has like 2 or 3 names.
Everybody has an alias. Yeah.
Yes. Like, I mean, I think...
I know. I don't think about... But I never think about Roy Scheider as... I always think about him as Dominguez. I don't think about him as Jackie Scanlon.
You see, I do.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I don't.
Well, the reason I think of him as Jackie Scanlon is how much of a sore thumb it is when, like, these guys go to the mob boss and they're like, yeah, Jackie Scanlon, he's a real piece of shit. He's a part of the Donnelly gang. And I'm like, Scanlon's part of the Donnelly gang? So it's just like early in the film, we're really like pointing out that everyone could be anyone. Like there's no...
Well, and the Ricci's and all that stuff. I'm like, that's like a whole nother movie that we got dropped into.
Oh my God.
And there are 4 movies.
It's like we were watching The Departed and then like they pulled us out and put us into this. We're like, what happened?
Well, that's...
so
need like a little chart.
Yeah.
You need it.
But like we cut to the church and there's a wedding going on.
Oh God.
And the bride has a black eye.
Yes.
And I'm just like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
A lot of information.
Roy Scheider's face is also all fucked up.
Yes.
He's got bruises on one side of his face too. So I'm like, it's a bad place.
Yeah, nothing is good here. Like, I mean, out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, for sure.
With Jackie.
Well, the other thing, this is just like an actor thing. Like, so the guy that's getting married in the church is, I remember him from Beverly Hills Cop. It's just a scene I always think about because it's like this scene where Eddie Murphy is an undercover cop trying to buy a bunch of like bootleg cigarettes. And this guy is trying to stiff him with the money. And it's a hilarious scene. And I read about it. And like Eddie Murphy would just say whatever he felt like. So this guy was like just really acting off of him. So that scene always makes me laugh. So anytime. This guy's
just like an extra in this movie.
Yeah, he's just an extra. He's there. He's getting married. I mean, the poor woman with the black eye. Fuck me. Like, what is that?
I don't think I mean, I'm sure I saw that the other times I've seen this movie. But I guess I've just erased it from my mind.
Worst.
Because when I saw it again this time, I was like, nah. Like, why is she getting married and has a black eye right now?
And nobody's saying anything.
No, and the priest is like smiling at her. And
yeah.
It's just like so disturbing.
I mean, keep the veil down. Yeah, no. At least
get some foundation.
put that veil down.
Oh, yeah.
Get your makeup done. Something. Or really run, girl.
Well, I think it's
What
like,
are you doing in there?
well, it's
Yeah, it's
horrible.
1977.
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
true.
Scary stuff. Well, it's like, Chinatown, right? You watch
Yeah.
Chinatown, you have the scene where this guy is helping out Jack Nicholson. He seems gruff. It's Burt Young. And then, it's another similar thing. I think you see his wife and she's beat up. I don't know. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best
and
move along.
Right?
Is the priest in on the take?
Ooh. I didn't
I'm
think
sure
of that.
he is.
Is he
because,
part of the, like, is he connected to the mafia guy?
Yeah, because Ricci says, like, that's, I don't know if they're related. I think they might be
are.
related. I think he might have
Like
even
his
said,
brother.
yeah, I think he said that it's his brother or his cousin or something. But yeah, the priest is like part of the Ricci family. And when this Donnelly gang is robbing the church, which, first of all, who robs the church?
I don't know. I don't know.
And it's like Irish people versus Italians who were
Yeah.
both like really super Catholic. So I'm just surprised that like Irish people would go rob a Catholic church, but they did. And they're like, do you know who this church belongs to? And I'm like, church belongs to somebody. What are you talking about? But yeah, so yeah. I mean, that's pretty smart because church has got a lot of money. So
Yeah.
Well, especially on like bingo night or whatever it was, with all those different churches. But I love the car crash. That's a spectacular car crash. But also the cop, like, picking up the bloody money before he calls somebody else over. I just love all these little, details.
All right,
in
so
the setup.
Let me blow your mind. Okay, so this is some of this weird shit I alluded to earlier. So here's what goes down with Dominguez. Okay, so they're driving away from the robbery of the church, and then the tough guys are fighting about whose dick is bigger, pretty much. And so we have Scheider turns around, and then he drives straight into an 18-wheeler. So that's foreshadowing right there. So an 18-wheeler stops their escape. The car flips over. When the car flips over, the car is very blue, and it flips over next to a fire hydrant, which is red and white. So we've got like this American imagery, and we have the water spraying out, which is like the oil later on. Also, in the background, we have this 18-wheeler and the actual trailer. Okay, the name of the company says Southern. Okay, and it's like, that is Southern Oil Company from Wages of Fear. And again, in Southern Oil Company, their logo was like the three oil derricks, which is very much like Catholicism, the Holy Trinity, right? So we have Jesus, we have the two thieves. The other thing in Sorcerer that I want to point out, which is I don't know what to do with it, but I realized it. The four criminals that go, we have two thieves and we have two killers. So that's another piece of it as well. I also don't know if Scanlon Dominguez died in that wreck or not, because that was one hell of a wreck. And who was the guy that comes down and says to him, yeah, he's gone. He's gone. You better get out of here before the cops come. I kept rewinding it. I was like, is that his friend, or friend in quotes, who tells him how to get out of the country later? It's no one. And then he walks away from this. Everyone has to know that the church was just robbed. They also show another gangster that falls, the one you talked about with like the blood on him and the money, and the cop takes the money. I thought that was Scanlon, but it wasn't, because Scanlon gets away. But I'm like, how did he even make it that far? How did he get his nose fixed up? I know he's in a transient hotel. This guy that owed him one found him. But if he could find him, you're telling me that Richie, and all of his guys and all of his power couldn't find him? Like, I really wonder if Scanlon died then and there.
Well,
so
yeah, like, I mean, I don't think he did, but I think that obviously it's symbolic. Like,
yeah,
all four of the people who end up driving, this goes back to my purgatory limbo kind of comment earlier. The setup with these four backstories is the death of who these people were before. So even if they're not physically dead, their identity is dead. Like, they can't go back and be who they were.
Yeah.
Like, Qasim was this Palestinian, and like, he's a terrorist, basically. He did like an act of terror. He escapes, but he can't go back there. Like, he's never going to go back. Like, Serrano can never go back. If he went back to France, he's dead, you know, because of everything with this money. He's in prison, whatever. Like, Scanlon, he's still in trouble. Like, Scanlon can't even leave that town without being afraid. And as we see at the very end, he's not even safe there.
No. And his friend, again, quotes, that helped him and said, I don't know where you're going, turned him in. But what I feel like happened with that guy that paid Scanlon back the favor is what he said was true. I'll get you out of the country. Go to this guy. Don't say I sent you. I don't know where you're going. But what I do think happened after that is that guy was, hired by the mob. And he's like, yeah, I'll track him down. I know this guy, Nat Glick. He gets people out of here. He goes, he interrogates, he kills that guy, and then he tries to follow the trail because he doesn't know where they sent him. So it's like that's his way. And then, ultimately he does find them. These little tie-ins. Okay, so here's the other one I want to bring up about Serrano. Okay, so Serrano's story is really crazy. So blue factors in big in this movie. Serrano's wearing a blue shirt, light blue shirt. Later on, when we see him driving, he's got a dark blue shirt on. His headboard is light blue. Okay, we have all these different little pieces that are interesting. So they're sitting at the table, eating dinner, this amazing place, all this food. It looks like a palace, right? It's gorgeous. And you're just like, oh, wow. And his wife says that, Serrano's father was a fisherman. So that kind of fills us in because Serrano has that little cut on his face, which lets us know, he, had some tough times, right? And so it's like, oh, he's the son of a fisherman. He got in some fights. We find out he's from another part of France, and he actually, came over to Paris, met his wife, did his whole thing. So this is a guy that came from nothing and built up to something. And you can see that the way that he got into high society is through kind of getting this guy that, is the son of someone very powerful, and he was able to manipulate him. That's how he was able to go up. And, but Serrano was an excellent businessman. Like the scene with the bank, masterful. Like, this guy is good, but he needed a way to get inside. So when he's sitting there and, he's like thinking about all this stuff, you can tell that like he's fought so hard to get to this place. He doesn't want to go back to having nothing. He wants to make sure his wife is okay. So he goes outside and, he meets with, the partner again, who's like, oh, I talked to my dad. He said, we have to face our consequences. He's like, call him again. Just take care of it. We've already seen this scene earlier. Serrano's like, just call him and take care of it. Your dad will look after you. So what do we see? The guy goes away. As Serrano's about to go back into the restaurant, we hear the bang. And we're like, oh my God. So Serrano looks, he sees that the gold Porsche that this guy came out of, back window, shattered. There's blood. And, we see this gun on the front seat, and it's on like this blue plaid, right? So again, we're dealing with blue. And again, it kind of makes you think about working class. So I've met people before that do have money and literally have told me they would rather not be around than have to work a menial job. They said that they would rather be gone than work, a menial job. It's just like they don't want to let go of that lifestyle. And, what we have here is, Serrano is like, God, I don't want to let go of this lifestyle either. But it's what the imagery really sells it. We've got a gold Porsche in between two blue cars. Okay. So it's like, again, it's just like this sadness. He goes in, he tells the maitre d', here's the bill. Tell my wife I had to go for business. He goes back out. It looks like he's going to get into that gold Porsche, but then he decides not to. So he runs away, and it's like the reverse of a fairy tale. He runs into the forest, away from paradise, instead of staying there. And we also see like that red circular sign on the left. So it's like he's going the wrong way. And we know that like there's danger up ahead. It's really, I don't know. His story is just like, whoa, every level of it. With the story that his wife is reading about the person that's going to be murdered, this guy who's a soldier, the watch that he gets from her. I mean, I think that for me, the Serrano story, I latched onto so much because I was able to see so much in a short time, relatively.
Well, he's not a good guy, but he's the best guy out of the other bad guys, I guess. Like,
yeah,
it's not like Luigi, who you just love. Like, Luigi's great. Like, can't say anything bad about Luigi. But Serrano, like, he, even though we know he's kind of was a scumbag in his previous life, taking advantage of people, he's still not afraid to, like, do work. Like, he's working at the oil company, and he's like trying to do his best in this bad situation. And, you know, I find him to be maybe the most likable out of the people.
Yeah.
And of course, like when he's talking, you know, to Cassim about his past and about his wife and showing him the watch, it's when like they hit the bump and blow out a tire and then explode and roll off the cliff. So in Wages of Fear, we don't actually see the guys who blow up when they're blowing up. In this, we do, and it really sucks. Like when you're watching that scene, because you get really involved in the story that he's telling, and then you know they hit the bump. I think one of the cool, in a bad way, things in Sorcerer is that they have to like put together their vehicles too. Like, you know, they get the job. It's not only, hey, you're going to have to drive these trucks, but they're having to cobble these shitty trucks together out of like spare parts from some car, you know, truck graveyard. I mean, it shows that this company really, like, I don't even know if they wanted these people to make it. Like, they did not help them, like, at all. And, you know, they're driving up this mountain in treacherous conditions, also in the worst vehicles possible. I mean, it's a wonder it took that long for something to go wrong with one of these vehicles.
Well, it's an inability, I would say, or an unwillingness, more likely, of the people in power to actually ever take any action. Everything is put down, again, to the workers. And so the workers have to face these things, and they'll take all the credit. They sit back, they reap all the rewards. You talk to your board, we did this, isn't this great? I saved us this much money. Fantastic. And that's what we're seeing. And yes, the fact that they don't even give them the trucks, that they have to build the trucks, that's like, again, it's just like, oh, these guys should know how to build trucks. I mean, if it was me, I don't know what the fuck I would have done. I've been out there with like a fucking banana and like a crescent wrench. I'd have been like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. They're just basically like putting it all on these people like, oh yeah, you know, we need some people to drive, you know, this dynamite up the hill.
I love how like nonchalant
it's like, was. Okay, yeah, that's, you know, that's what we're looking for. Like, if you want to do it, you know, that's cool, but you know, and we'll pay you or whatnot. But like, you know, you got to build your own truck and like, you know, be in charge of moving the dynamite onto the truck. And you know, you're probably going to get killed, but that's just the risk you got to be willing to take. You know, it's like, it's all on you guys. Like, who wants to take that? Like, it has to be desperate. You have to be super desperate.
Yeah. I feel like the purgatory is definitely a great, I don't know, way to describe the situation that they're in. And I guess going back to Wages of Fear with the ending of that one, I feel like the message is then also like, you can't escape. Like, there is no escape for you. You thought you could, but nope.
Nope.
I was texting Mac and I was like, Wages of Fear is so French. Like when Joe dies and he
oh yeah,
he brightens up for a second and he goes, there's nothing.
Oh my God.
It's like, oh man.
That's what I'm saying.
Also,
with
real quick, can we talk
existentialism.
about the way that they did his like ran over a leg was
Ooh.
so gruesome
Ooh.
in such a like shocking way. Like I don't know exactly how they did it, and they don't show it, but you just see the shape of it, and it's enough. Like,
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
oh,
like,
that was
nope.
so gross. Yeah.
That is a hard no for me as well. Like, again, it's something that I must have seen because I've seen this movie several times, but I must have like blasted that right out of my brain because I didn't want it in there because it is dank. Like, he gets pulled
Yeah.
out of there, and it looks like they
Ugh.
just actually just pulled his leg off for the movie. They're like, you know what? We need a guy with a detachable leg at the knee for this part. So find one. Because it looks like, I mean, it's too real. It's a little
Yeah.
too real. And it has, it just underscores how horrible that situation is because he's in there, and this is like another Humphrey Bogart moment. It made me think of the African Queen, where
Mhm.
they're trying to get out of the jungle. It is the jungle in that case, so I said the right word.
It's the woods. We all know it's the woods.
And their boat runs up on kind of a swampy kind of area, and they can't get through it. And Humphrey Bogart has to get out of the boat and like just kind of use a stick to see how deep it is and all this stuff. So that's what Joe is doing in the oil, and he's like guiding. It's already gross. You're like hip deep in oil, and again with the symbolism, like nobody can stop with symbolism and the stuff. But that's where the truck blew up. So we have the blown pipeline that's like pulsing out oil, like a heart, like an exploded blood vessel or something. And, he already told, well, first of all, Joe has just been trying to get out of this the whole time. Like the whole time he's like,
Let me
oh,
go
well,
home.
guess we got to quit now. Like every time, like anything is an excuse for him to be like, guess we're done. And, that's relatable, even if you don't like Joe, because I think if you signed up for this, you would be just ready to jump ship any opportunity you got. But here he's, like, look, I don't think we can do this. It's slippery. Truck's going to get stuck, which it does. But then Mario is just like, I'm going no matter what. And it doesn't matter if Joe is stuck and can't, move. Mario's going anyway. And it's like, he's just like, well, I guess I'm running over this guy. And that's basically what happens.
And it's also not the first time he does that trip. Like when he's backing up on the rickety bridge,
Oh,
and
man.
Joe's like, "Stop! And I think it's that Joe like jumped out of the way, but it's still like he would have just kicked him right off that ledge.
Mario
so
Mario really missed out. Like he should have worked for the oil company because he's got the right amount of heartlessness that they're looking for. Like that's part of the job description, and he meets it. But yeah, I mean, he's just like, this truck's going whether you're in the way or not in the way. So that's Mario's deal.
Well, here's some weird stuff. And I feel it really ties in, with the theme of Sorcerer, also, with Wages of Fear. But, in Sorcerer, I really think a lot about Apocalypse Now because we have a lot of similar imagery. Like you can't separate for me the Doors, the end from like, this helicopter that, and then just all that napalm they dropped where they just burnt down, all of these trees, all these palm trees. And in this, with the way that we show all of this fire, all of these explosions, it makes me think about that opening sequence. I also feel that Sorcerer does a fantastic job of just making us feel how hot, just how humid, how disgusting everything is. From that shot that we see of Roy Scheider's hand and just his knuckles when he's having nightmares in bed, you're just like, oh my God, like I want to shower washing. I said washing. I want to shower, like after I've watched this movie. And we also have, Nilo, right? he is actually washing his head in the basin, just like Marlon Brando did in Apocalypse Now. We also have Nilo sitting in the darkness, and it's just his face is just coming out of the darkness. And we also see his hand that's smoking. Again, it's like Marlon Brando in Apocalypse Now. And it's like what we talked about, where he wants to just let these guys build his truck for him, and then he'll just go and kill one of them casually because he is a hitman. And with his story, with Nilo's story, I mean, I don't even know like what he's running from, because when I think of his story, we see, Vera Cruz, right? And he goes, kills the guy in the hotel. He leaves, he goes down that elevator, right? And that elevator, very symbolic of like, going to hell. And it's like he's in this, cage around the elevator as well. So it's like what we have that, and he takes off. But it's like with him, I didn't feel the same sense of danger that I felt with the other three, running from a bombing. You've got the police, the army coming in. Yeah, you got to go. You know what I mean? Scanlon, you got to go. And of course with Serrano, he had to go too.
No, I get it, because it feels like this maybe is just another day for Nilo. Like he's just killed another guy and stuff. Whatever. Like, I mean, he really, I mean, life is super cheap to him too, because he just kills Marquez to get on, to be on the truck, which is different than Wages of Fear, where, I guess he just, in that, Joe just kind of talked that other guy out of doing it, because that guy shows up at the end too. But in this, he offs Marquez, so Marquez can't take the job.
Yeah.
I guess he's just like the only one who walked into it almost willingly. Like, but then what's interesting is that when he's like, everybody else has to do this, and maybe that's why during the trip he's kind of like, well, no, I guess I can't recall. Is he like Joe, where he kind of wants to back out, like in the middle of it? Yeah. Okay, well, maybe that's because he's the only one who was like, yeah, whatever. Like, let me just. It's a Tuesday. let me go here. Whereas everybody else is like, I need to do this or else I will be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Like, let's try the Nitro ride. What the hell? Let's see what I think.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that it was a good point with Apocalypse Now, because that is also another movie about kind of Western society impinging on like a natural society. I mean, and in Wages of Fear, there's a shot with like the background is like the oil fire, and in the foreground there's like 3 like native people standing there, and it's like, wow, like that's so obvious. Yeah. I mean, probably in the 50s people were like, oh, wow, but like nowadays people have done that like so many times. But it's just like such a juxtaposition, like, you're destroying these people's home, for what? It's not benefiting them. Like, those native people are never gonna receive the benefits of the oil that's being taken out of the earth. They're only having their habitat destroyed around them.
And their people, the people that live there. I mean, we see, Chasm working and Sorcerer literally on the pipeline, and the pipe falls and kills someone. And then in both films, we see, that they just bring these bodies back, to the village.
And they blamed those people for the accident too. So it's not.
Yeah, that was honestly the most like heart-wrenching part for me. Like out of any death, it's like seeing those people, especially in Sorcerer, like the families crowding the vehicles and just like sobbing, and then going kind of silent once they actually take like the bodies out. I was just like, oh my god, that is just rough.
It was gruesome too, because these people are like burnt to a crisp, and they're in like these clear bags that have like blood and liquids coming out of this. Freaking horrible.
Well, and again, it's misdirection. What I mean by that is it shows that the people in power, instead of having all those people go and take it out on the people in power, confront them, they take it out on the people that delivered these bodies, who, they have a boss. Now, I'm not saying that it's like a great job that those people have or that they should be doing it. But what seems to happen is it's just like these sacrificial lambs are always sent out to take the hit. So people feel like, oh, okay, we took care of them. We showed them. No, you didn't show them anything, because what's going to happen now is the families of those people are going to be pissed at you. And, the actual boss is just going to sit back like, I don't give a fuck. It all worked out. We'll just keep it going. They'll keep fighting each other. That's all that happens. They get mad at me. I'll have them take it out on this person.
Well, I mean, that's like capitalist society for you, like people in power turning the lower classes against each other instead of against the real threat, which is them. So, they sow discontent among like the lower classes.
It's very scary.
When I was in college, I took this like jobs and work class, and I seriously think that turned me like, I don't know, socialist, communist, turned me into something, because I just never thought about the structure of companies before. And like my professor was just talking about, how you have your manager. So just like you said, you get mad at them instead of the owner, who is the real cause of all your issues. And I was like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah.
I hate everything.
You're just like, there's nothing. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and this is not even in the US or whatever, where there are some labor standards. This is like the US, this US company has gone, to a place where there is no OSHA, no OSHA guy's going to show up and make sure that the working conditions are safe. It's just straight up exploitation of poor people who really have no other options.
Yeah.
And why is Coca-Cola such a status symbol in Sorcerer? Like, if you have a Coca-Cola, you're hot shit. That's something that we see, time and time again. We see Nilo get off of the plane, he bribes the guy, and he goes and he gets this Coke, right? We have, Dominguez taken from the bar because he doesn't have the proper papers. And, the cops take him into the office. One of the cops, while they're interrogating him, just opens up a Coke, drinks it. Again, it's like this symbol of power. And they say to him, okay, what's going to happen is we're going to take a cut of your money, and I'm sure that's going to be an ongoing process, and that take will be more and more. So it's like you always have to be paying somebody off. It is like there's always somebody else that's going to want a cut of your money, because that's kind of the way that the system is set up, is everybody is taking a piece of somebody else's money that's below them. And, I don't know where, the top is. I have absolutely no idea, but there's a lot of people, in this pyramid. So it's like everybody is taking and everybody is paying. And it's like, in the end, it's like, what the hell are we doing?
Well, no, and nobody has people have no inherent value. And I think more in Wages of Fear, but in both, people have no inherent value apart from their ability to serve the company. Like, what can you do for the company? And the oil is the true value, to the point where, like, in Wages of Fear, like Mario and Joe are like covered in it. It's like, this is the only thing that matters. Like, the people don't matter at all.
Well, I think the money is what actually matters the most. And the reason that I say that
oil is money. Oil equals money.
It does. But the reason that I put it that way is because it's very beginning in Sorcerer, when his name is not O'Brien in Sorcerer, but I just want his name to be O'Brien in both. I have no good reason for this. But, when our new O'Brien...
Just so you don't have to remember 72 names.
Oh, my God.
Maybe. Each person has, like, multiple names.
It's like, stop it. So, like, when new O'Brien is talking to, the other guy in the office, and they're, like, trying to figure it out, it's like, what are we going to do? So, Corlett, the new O'Brien... The reason that I say money is even more important than the oil is the bean counter guy is like, if you can't deliver this much oil on time, we're just going to shut down the whole operation right now, because that's better. Money is the most important thing. So, I mean, if that thing burnt out, I have the feeling that they're cocky enough to be like, you know what? we'll just go find oil somewhere else. We'll just get some more oil, and that's fine.
And that is what they're like. That the oil equals money. So they have like a certain amount that they can lose before they just have to give up. Like that's basically where they're at. Because the oil is burning because of this explosion. So they're losing at a certain clip, and they've calculated like how much they can lose before they just need to abandon the whole show and go somewhere else because it's not even worth trying to salvage it anymore. Because that's all that matters. And that is how businesses work. I mean, pretty much all businesses work that way. They're just like, how much can we lose before we just have to kind of say, forget it. And the problem is that the owners, and the people who are the people who own the means of production, like they can just stop at a certain point and give up and say, yeah, this doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm losing too much, and just go do something else because it doesn't matter to them. They can just go do something else anytime they want. It's the workers that are going to be affected by that because they can't just jump up and go get another job. The only industry in this place is oil production. If oil production goes away, these people really have nothing. They're going to be out in the jungle trying to figure out if they can eat leaves.
Yeah. It also makes me think about There Will Be Blood. Okay. That's a huge thing, that comes to mind with the burning oil derrick, and then the shysters and the con men and the expendable workers. I mean, in that, even Daniel Day-Lewis gets really hurt while he's, looking for oil, but he doesn't care. He just keeps going. It's that greed that keeps him, in motion. It's a scary commentary.
Yeah.
It's a scary commentary. Like, I don't know. Again,
I don't know. Now I'm like, why do we want to watch this movie?
But it's just so damn good. That's the thing. Like when I watched, both films, there was so much to take in. And it's very funny because my memory of Wages of Fear was much different than what we watched. Frankly, my memory of the film is that, number one, it was around 2 hours, perhaps a little less. Number two, it started kind of with, a brief scene of setting up these people are broke, things blow up. Let's go ride. No, you know what I mean? Like we take a while, to get there. I mean, Sorcerer, it takes about an hour. And I think in Wages of Fear, is an hour, maybe an hour and a half even?
I don't know if we checked the time on that one, but yeah. It is a while because they do spend a lot of time kind of establishing this town.
Yeah.
And the people and kind of, what their life is like prior to this, let me put it in quotes, opportunity arises for them.
We have a great opportunity for you. Yeah. There's also
I work in corporate America, so
I heard that a lot.
Yeah. We love to talk about the opportunity to improve.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, there was a scene that I think I saw a long time ago. I think we used to have the Criterion DVD of Wages of Fear, which we don't now. So we just watched the straight film. And what I think I recall is that there was a scene where it was like all of the heads of these big companies were just sitting around and talking about profits and ways to increase profits. It was maybe a 3 to 5 minute scene. And I think this is one of the things that ended up on the cutting room floor. It was a great scene. We couldn't find it online. And again, my memory could be wrong because, again, remember, I watched, a movie that was around 2 hours, Wages of Fear.
Well, there was a scene in this where there were guys kind of sitting around a table and talking about things.
But I think it was
on the HBO Max version that we just watched.
Maybe they put it in. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, I think that could have possibly been excised at the time because Americans thought it was like the American censorship board was like, this is hitting too close to home, folks. We need to take that out.
We don't want them thinking that much.
No. Well, but the reason I think it's different is in my memory, which again is warped, as we figured out, is different companies. It wasn't just oil production. It was like, I don't remember what the companies were. You know what I mean? Like, the head potato grower. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm the oil man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the man that creates milk. You know, it's like that. That's a hell of a movie, right?
That's a great one.
And they just passed around a bottle of milk, and they talked about, George C. Scott was in that scene, and he was excellent.
I mean, I had different thoughts about this movie too. I kind of thought that for some reason I thought Mario and Luigi were riding together.
I did too.
In the truck, but I think it's just because it's Mario and Luigi, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
It is funny. That just must have been a complete coincidence, because I do not think Nintendo was like, oh, my favorite film, Wages of Fear. Time to name our pro tags after them.
I don't know. I'm ready for the Super Mario Wages of Fear crossover.
Oh my God. Oh,
dark.
That would be incredible. Like King Koopa would take on a whole new meaning. You know? Oh my God.
No O'Brien. Now we got just Bowser.
Yeah.
Oh, Bowser.
Incredible. I also feel that Stephen King took influence from this with like Maximum Overdrive and like the sentient truck, you know, because there were faces that I could see, particularly again in Sorcerer, in the truck. You know, the different trucks had faces. The
truck Sorcerer did have like a toothy grill on it.
Yeah, it had the ridged hood.
I agree with you. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And it had like, I think it only had one eye, you know, at the bottom. But it's like, it's the creation of the truck. It's like they're resurrecting something. It's like Frankenstein, you know, because we have that whole montage where it's like we're getting the best parts. Oh, and then they turn the lights on, you know, and it's just like, you black and it, you know, smoke your maybe
mist. Makes you
mist.
think of like Christine.
Yes.
A little bit like when the Christine car is kind of being restored and then comes to life.
Wow.
That's creepy.
Well done. Wow.
Well, that gave me goosebumps. More Stephen King there for you too.
God. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and this all comes from a movie that I was drawn to because I was like, you know, it's pretty cool with the trucks and stuff. You know what I mean? That part's pretty good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't even remember why we watched this. I mean, maybe
we were trying to do all the Criterion movies.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You know, and we've done a bunch, and we've had, you know, some really great experiences. We had some where like, it's just like anything else. You know, it's like you get interested in seeing what folks say were the best films.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, I think really a lot of the time now, age is a big deal because I never really thought about film being so fashionable. You know, like it's designed most of the time for that particular moment. And we do have things that are evergreen, but there are some that are really just kind of like, we locked on to this idea. This is never going to change. And you go back and you go, shit, this is not life at all.
Well, it's cultural too. Because and we went through a period where we were watching a lot of French movies.
Yes.
And this must have been during that time. And this is extremely French, as Christina pointed out. I mean, yeah, I thought the same thing, you know, when Joe was like there with his leg like jacked up in the car or in the cab of the truck.
It smells like death. I smell like a corpse.
And I was just like, this is so bleak.
It's God, it's
they should have been
dark.
Just smoking a cigarette like that while they're talking about it.
They should have been on fire themselves. Why not? Why not? Right?
But yeah, when he's like dying and he's like, "There's nothing," I'm like, "Of course, there's nothing. Of course." Like it's so existentialist. Like that he is about to die and his last vision is that life and afterlife are meaningless nothing. I'm like, yeah, well, you can skip all the philosophy classes, I guess, because you just got the summary right there.
Well, I really like, this is what I just, there's a couple things I want to point out here that are enjoyable. One is, it's kind of like the gang at Cheers. You know what I mean? Like they're really excited. They hang out there all the time. They're kind of a pain in the ass. They're having a party at the end. Like everybody's really getting down on it. And that's like cross-cut, you know, with Mario. Like he's conquered fear. That's what I kind of think they're trying to say. Like Mario has conquered fear. So now he thinks he's invincible and he can do anything. And he realizes that is not the case. I feel like that's the thing. And then the fucking ticket in his hand at the end. I just wanted to fucking whip out my dick and just put it on the screen. I was so pissed. I was like, really, guys? Really? Why don't you show me a token for the bathroom? You know what I mean? Like, that would have been more helpful to me. That's just my feeling.
I don't know. I mean,
nothing to build on there.
Your feelings are very strong about this.
I think the film inspired me. Here's the other one. You guys will love this. So this one actually ties into Talladega Nights, which is in Sorcerer. At the end, Scheider just takes the nitro out and just runs across the finish line with it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah.
It's like Cal is dead.
It's like Jean Girard.
It's like Shake and Bake is done. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's it. And it's really messed up. It's really messed up.
Yeah, Jean Girard would be great in Wages of Fear and Sorcerer.
There is a guy. There's a guy in Sorcerer that I think is part of the Israeli army that actually favors Sacha Baron Cohen. I did say that to you.
You did.
Yeah.
You're like, this guy in the back. Did you see Sacha Baron Cohen on? I was like, yeah.
It was so wild.
That's really ridiculous.
That's how it goes.
Well, that whole ending. So the difference between the two movies with those parts is weird because there's that whole part where Roy Scheider is like, it's after Nilo is dead, and he's driving through like that. I don't know what the hell it is.
Goblin Valley is what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks
great
like
sunset.
It's like a weird, like blue, like rock formations and stuff.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And it went really weird during that
very
part.
surreal.
Yes.
Yeah, and he starts having like visions, and I mean, he must be having a psychotic break, but he also looks crazy. It's like he's covered in this dust, and he's not even looking like the right color anymore. Like he's all kind of gray and ashy and weird. And it really is like if he was in purgatory already, like now he just like has gone straight into hell at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was just a really interesting choice because it's bizarre.
Yeah.
That
dude's in Tartarus.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah, he
done
just like what is going on in that scene? Every time I see it, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like I don't know if it's good or not good. I just know it's weird.
Well, the movie, I think, really what draws me to both is I love thrillers, I love suspense, and this definitely, both films are able to work with suspense in such a way that you're on the edge of your seat, and it doesn't matter how many times I watch it, or I think either of us watch it. We have the same thing. We're screaming at the television. We don't know if they're going to make it. It's so well done. It's so well done with the suspense. It makes me think about Hitchcock, really.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's incredible. And then so you have this incredible suspense, and then you have this fantastic story that we're going around as well. You know, it's very, oh God, I don't even know the words. I don't know the words.
Well, it's a scary movie without, being a traditional like supernatural horror type film, because it is really scary. Like I feel more fear when I'm watching this than I would watching, maybe a ghost movie, because this is real. Like this is the horror of corporations and capitalism and just, pushing yourself to the limit because you feel like you have to. And the scariest part is that it can't be over. Like these guys keep, in the Wages of Fear, they keep running into every single thing that could happen is happening.
Yeah.
They have to turn around on that horrible bridge, and like the tire drops through for the first two guys, Luigi and Bimba. And then, they manage to get out of it through this teamwork that they do. Then Mario and Joe come and they have to do it too. And they don't have the benefit of teamwork because Joe is doing jack shit.
Yeah.
So, that's horrible. Just every single thing that happens to them is the worst thing. Then that rock is there. They're like, oh, we're done. They're like, well, no, let's keep going. They keep pushing so that the fear is never over. Like, they're just afraid the whole time that they're going to die. Like, there's just a constant specter of just exploding literally the whole time. And so you can't ever become comfortable. You can't ever get to that point. And then when Mario does get comfortable, he shouldn't have.
Well, it's like
he got a little too comfortable, and then he, rides straight off a cliff in a very horrible looking truck crash. I mean,
it was bad.
What a truck crash. That was great.
It was
Uh-huh.
the cab of that truck just crushed right up like nothing. Like, I know they show like him like lying there with his eye open and his hand is holding this stupid ticket. But like it would have been more like just human goo. There's no way.
Yeah. Nothing left of him.
No. We would not have been able to distinguish any part of a human body after that crash.
Well, we have in this movie, we have God versus man. We have man versus man. We have man versus self, and we have the supernatural element. I would say the biggest moment would be in Sorcerer when we have Serrano and Cassim crossing that bridge over the water. And it's like Serrano gets out of the truck because Cassim has fallen and wants to make sure he's okay. And when he goes out to see if he's okay, this massive dead tree comes down right on the water and just slams into him.
Yeah, and it isn't like normal, like, ow, I got hit by a tree. It's like, oh, and it's like, what is going on? Like, it did feel like he was being attacked by like a monster.
Yes.
Yeah.
That whole scene is so stressful on that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have had a bridge thing since I was a little kid.
Same.
I
cannot do bridges.
Yeah, bridges
Very
freak
scary.
me out. It's like, I don't know when this started for me. I must have had some kind of triggering event that I can't remember really clearly. But I remember other times when I was a kid of like going over a bridge and being freaked out. I know that one time when I was around like 5, we had a lot of rain and flooding. And I remember driving over a bridge and the water, which usually was like a normal distance below the bridge, was like running right up to the top of it.
Ugh.
And I will literally have nightmares like that I'm driving and like a bridge just gets washed out, or, I don't know. I have a lot of issues around bridges like that.
That's a healthy fear, I gotta say, though. Like, you should be cautious.
Exactly. Don't get too comfortable on these bridges. But yeah, like Mothman Prophecy, like that movie freaks me out because of the bridge thing. And that's one of those weird old, like metal kind of bridges, which are the most scary kind. Or there's like that video of, I think it's some bridge, maybe the Puget Sound or something, where there's a car sitting on it and the bridge is like rocking like this.
No.
And it makes me like have a heart attack just thinking about that. So, long story short, too late. Whenever there's a bridge scene, I'm already worked up about it and really stressed out. This bridge scene is just like, okay, just kill me, because I'm never going to be okay with this. Like,
yeah, I don't know how they got through it. I would have been like, I'm jumping in the river. It's over. This was my sign.
Like, yeah, I'd rather be Joe, like, facing the nothingness of death than looking at that bridge and thinking, oh, I need to go across that in this nitroglycerin soaked dynamite truck.
Yeah.
Forget it. Just absolutely right now, I'm giving that a no.
I think God was just fucking with them, because I was really like, they should have blown up here. Like, I don't know. I feel like that truck rocked enough that it should have blown up.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. The rocking,
he just wanted them to suffer.
Just forget it. Like, that rocking was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was bad enough when the first truck, when Lazaro went across. with Dominguez and Nilo. But then when the second, they made it, and then the second truck goes across. And by the way, like, then they're cutting to Dominguez being like, oh, they're never going to make it across that. Like, awesome. Like, you're really a great guy.
Dominguez is such a prick.
He is. He's just like, oh, yeah, they're definitely going to die. So we're going to get double shares.
Double shares, 20,000 apiece. It's double shares. Yeah, that's right. Double shares. Like, he loves it. He repeats it twice.
He wants them to die.
He does. I sent Georgia a screenshot of it today. I was just like, here we go.
Yeah, he's so awful that he's just like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. They're never going to make it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, awesome. But yeah, then then we cut to them trying to make it. And it's like, I don't even know how that bridge survived the first crossing.
No.
Much less the second. And I guess that goes back to like that little turnabout kind of thing, platform from Wages of Fear, which again, like, I had 17 heart attacks watching that. Especially when Mario is trying to go up and like the back wheels start like sliding over to almost the edge. I'm like, I give up. I would have just given up. I'm like Joe there. I'm like, I'm going to pretend that I fell off this and I'm just going to go hide in the scrub and he can just think that I'm dead.
Right?
That he was like, maybe I can outrun him. Maybe he'll just leave.
Maybe he'll think that I thought that he might be dead. Like I thought
me
he
too.
would run over.
Yeah.
And I think he wanted Mario to think he was dead. He's like hiding behind a rock. It's like
that was so funny.
Oh, and he's in the same pose as the girlfriend that's discarded off the truck.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's one of the things
when
I
she
caught.
gets knocked off,
Yes.
she's like lying kind of Jabba the Hutt style.
Yes.
I guess I would call it. Legs out to the side, kind of over.
What about the scene? Now, this is one we haven't talked about yet in Wages of Fear, which is when they're going through that washboard area and then they have to keep speed and then they have to slow down.
Oh, yeah.
And they have so it's like Luigi and Bimba go through first and it's really nice. They put down this white handkerchief, which I'm guessing is a warning to say, hey, slow down,
Mm-hmm. And then some dude just takes it.
Yeah, he takes it and then he waves to them with it, which is hilarious. And it's just like right as, that Mario and Joe are pulling up. It's like that's when he does it. And that is so funny to me each time. And it's just like, and you really think, they're going to ram each other. But it's just like this blind belief that, the vehicle in front is going to speed up, which miraculously it does. It's a really big nail biting moment that I don't feel that we have replicated in Sorcerer. Because, if the two trucks rammed each other, forget it, and it's just like, that is a really, big moment that I feel we didn't get. I mean, I think the closest
Sorcerer kind of cuts down the time on the actual journey, and they have still like they still have troubles that they run into, but it's not the same as Wages of Fear, where I feel like it's just one thing after another after another.
But the bridge, I mean, the water bridge is the thing. And like, even when they're going down, holy shit, like that POV shot where we're supposed to be in the truck and they slide down. Yes. I feel like, like, I don't know what you're doing. And, and then it's like, we have that Cassim is hooking up the winch. And I'm like, that shit is not going to hold, bro. Like, you're not going to make it. Like, it makes me think about, bridge things. I can tell you where my fear comes from with it. It's because of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where Indy cuts the fucking bridge. And I'm like, what if you were on that bridge? What would you do? Yeah. And I'm like, I'd hang on. And I'm like, then you get slammed into the rock wall. So what are you going to do? I guess I'll let go. Well, there's gators down there. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here.
No good option for you. Yeah. Rope bridges are the devil. And that's all. Yeah. That is all.
Terrifying. Yeah. I mean, both films just, they do really sell you fear. Like, there's so much fear in these movies. And I feel that with horror films, I get scared a lot We watched Talk to Me the other day. Absolutely fucking terrifying.
Oh my God.
Absolutely
Holy
fucking
shit.
terrifying. Yeah, so many ways. But it's just like this particular like death mission that was just it's popularized so much. We've seen so many movies that come out, this death mission so many ways. You think of like the Dirty Dozen. Again, it's a bunch of bad guys, right? This is their shot at redemption. It's a suicide mission. If you win, you're good. Later in life, we have the Suicide Squad. We, I guess, love this story.
Well, it's a different type of build, with horror movies. Like, I think generally what you have is like peaks and valleys. So you like have a really scary thing, and then you have time to calm down, and then the next scary thing happens. So you're kind of going back and forth, but you have time to breathe. I feel there's no time to breathe in this movie, in Wages of Fear or Sorcerer.
Yeah, and then in Wages of Fear, the one time you do breathe, like that's when the shit goes down,
right?
Like the time that they cleverly get you to breathe, they're like, oh, shouldn't have done that.
It's ridiculous.
Guess you messed up there.
I think with Clouseau, we did Les Diaboliques like a long time ago, and that one still, is suspense all the way through.
Yes,
and I feel like. Obviously Friedkin, everyone always thinks of The Exorcist, but the French Connection too.
Yes.
There's like a lot of tension in that one.
Yeah.
The car chase.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, that's a nail biter for sure. So
I love William Friedkin.
Two masters. Yeah.
I mean, To Live and Die in LA. Love that. I mean, that's crazy. I like Cruising. That's crazy. That's terrifying. I mean, William Friedkin is like, holy shit. You know what I mean?
He makes some really weird movies, and in a very auteur, like artistic kind of way, he's not afraid to go with like this really heavy symbolism, and I think that's kind of cool. Like, I like watching a movie like that. Like, not every time. If it's badly done, get me out.
Sure.
I mean, there is nothing worse than a really poor symbolism movie. Like, it's cringe. It's like the ultimate cringe. But when it's done really well, very impressive. And I think that these, in my opinion, are both done very well. I know people bitch a lot about Sorcerer and like think that it's not good, but I honestly don't understand the criticism. I think it's pretty great. Wages of Fear, I give like a slight edge to, but that's probably just because it's old and I like old movies a lot.
Well, it's the forerunner. That's, I mean, I don't feel that if we, didn't have Wages of Fear that we would have gotten Sorcerer. I don't think that would have happened.
Yeah, I don't either, because I mean, again, maybe I'm being unfair to Georges Arnaud and the novel because I haven't read it, and I love books, but I just think that The Wages of Fear is so strong with the way that it captures like this horrible like situation these people are in. I think that is very influential in Sorcerer, and you can see that. Like, I guess Friedkin says, that it was partly that movie and partly, I guess, the book, and he wasn't exactly making a remake, but it is kind of like a remake. For me, I can definitely see, where he was pulling some of the stuff from the old movie. It's a really good movie. Like,
excellent.
It's scary. And every time I watch it, I'm just like, ugh. And I know what's going to happen, but I'm still just,
I mean, that shows you that, like, they've just really created something special here. So I'm going to do John Breed's Wikipedia to try to wrap around to this older point really quickly.
About Agrippa.
About Agrippa. Let's go for it. If I'm even saying it right.
It's a Renaissance philosopher, by the way.
Right,
yeah. Like,
keep it rolling.
That.
Yeah, keep it rolling.
I read about it.
All right, here we go.
I was reading Wikipedia myself.
Yes. All right.
Because I don't know who this person is.
All of us, Wikipedia. So here we go. So we've got Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa. I hope I'm saying that right. So this was a guy that was a philosopher. And again, he was like bringing in magic. He had all of these books that were really hot shit, but he also did something else that was really special, which is that he wrote a book talking about how women are better than men. So I think that is a very interesting point. And I agree with it too, by the way. But what I like about it, particularly in Sorcerer, is that we have Agrippa in that, who actually does have a significant role in the film. But where do we see her? We see her behind chicken wire in this bar, in a pirate bar, where she's trapped by men. And she has to do these crappy things. You know, she has to be a servant. She has to be a cleaner.
But she's kind of mysterious.
Yes. I feel like she actually has power. You know, it's like that's where I find it to be interesting. Again, she does give something to Serrano on the way out.
He gets killed. So what does that really do?
Well, but maybe it's like instead of you getting the most fucking worst death ever, you know, where you feel every second of it, it's a quick one.
Well, and you'll feel really good right before you are completely blown to smithereens.
Right. It's 5 minutes to 9 in Paris.
And don't even know what happened. Yeah.
It's 5 minutes to 9 in Paris. That's what I feel like. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, then they go, but it's like he goes out on this wonderful moment of thinking about his wife. And it's just like his life is gone. He can't go back to her. He's not going to bring her to this shit house. They don't have kids. You know, and it's just like it's about as good as it's going to get, which I admit is not very good.
And maybe he has faith that that letter is going to get to his wife.
Oh, don't start me on that.
That makes one of us.
Oh,
that
the
makes
letter.
one of us because I don't think it's going anywhere.
Serrano really
No, it's not.
No. Serrano fucked up and thinking that New O'Brien would actually send the letter.
Well, he was going to, but then he gives it to Jackie Scanlon / Dominguez, and I don't think he makes it 3.5 seconds past that scene. I mean,
I argued with Georgia about this. I was like, you don't know. Maybe he makes it. I mean, he's made it out of really weird. And I'm like, well, what the hell is he going to do? That's what she say to me. And I'm like, what if he gives him the check? She's like, that check means shit. You know what I mean? It's not the money.
No, it's
you
not
know
the money.
No.
Yeah, I mean, okay, no.
He could be like, look, I'm Juan Dominguez. I'm not Jackie Scanlon.
First of all,
you know, maybe that's
Jackie.
Character
Jackie?
witness. I don't know. Why am I? I don't know.
First of all, it's a 70s movie. Death is imminent. Like, there's no way.
His fate was sealed the year it came out.
I mean, like, no way. And then you have the sound that could be like a gunshot, or it could be people are like, or it could be a tire backfire. I'm like, just stop, okay? Like, obviously they go in and do him. Like, that's it. It's like, did you watch Wages of Fear? In Wages of Fear, you know, Mario makes it. He like collapses. He's asleep. Then everybody's like clapping him on the back like he's a big hero, and he saved everyone's jobs and, you know, whatever. And then he's just like weaving around on the road like a dipshit and flies off a cliff. This is not a positive film. Like, there's like, how many times have you been told in both of these movies that there's no way out, that there's no way that things are going to be good, and then you're still like a sap at the end, thinking that maybe there's a way out of it.
Well,
but it's kind of sweet.
I mean, I'm impressed by your unending ability to be optimistic here, but
here's the reason.
We're definitely different people.
I definitely can go with you, but these are the things I'm going to throw out.
It's a Labrador Retriever over here versus like or like a Golden Retriever versus like a gothic black cat.
Ooh. Well, it's like, here's the deal. So Agrippa, again, she can't save people, but she does have this dance, you know, with Dominguez, which is really nice. And it's this really good moment. And again, this is also, I guess, like what just happened with Serrano, right? Talking about the wife, here's the watch, here's my story, it's great, it's 5 minutes to 9 in Paris, we're dead. So maybe, again, because she is there, maybe it is just a quick one. Because, maybe it's a quick one, because it could have been a long one with who we're dealing with.
Yeah, maybe her talent is to make people feel comfort at the moment of their death.
That's actually a pretty big
Maybe
deal.
that's all you can
I
do.
like that.
Yeah.
And that's the best you can hope for.
Yeah, and I mean, you have.
And
Go ahead, please.
what an improvement over Linda.
Yeah.
Oh,
in the
oh
Wages
my
of
gosh.
Fear.
Oh man.
So
Night and day.
I really like it that this one female character, well, I guess Serrano's wife, right? But this female character has a lot more, to her than
Yeah.
Linda.
And she's older. I mean, just like how many times do you have like two women who are not like in their 20s in a
Yes.
film?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no doubt.
And people are definitely with her too. That's the thing you can tell, is that you do feel like, when she's giving Serrano breakfast, his stuff looks a lot better than like, the warm Bud Light the boys are doing over at the bar. So I feel like, again, you could attribute that to class because, again, Serrano is in a better quarters than, Dominguez is in. Dominguez is in what they call like the workers' hotel. And I really like it because Dominguez goes, yeah, I really like the Southern exposure, But my point is, when she brings breakfast to him, it seems like there's more than just, this is me doing my job and, I'm paying you to do it. She actually comes when he's going to drive away in the truck to give him something. You wouldn't do that. Like, why would you do that? So that to me, like, makes me feel like she has a lot more. And again, it's like literally they have her like in a cage. It's really fucked up.
Yeah, it's really gross. But yeah. I mean, one thing that we haven't talked about yet, we did talk about the cockroaches in Wages of Fear, but we also have vultures like sitting around everywhere. And that just kind of goes back to like this idea that everything is like decaying and they're carrion eaters. So they're just waiting for everyone to die for their next meal.
Like Nilo when he's smoking and he's waiting.
Yeah.
Ooh, good.
Well, I mean, what is he if not a vulture?
Right.
And I just think it's so gross and evocative of what a horrible place they're in.
Well, and also they would have these beautiful overhead shots, which I thought was, to go back to your point, showing the beauty of nature and what we've done to destroy it.
Yeah.
But maybe this is just the POV.
Well, nature itself is,
vulture?
I think that the whole thing is like, even though you're showing these vultures, like vultures have a part in like the circle of life, right? Like, so there's nothing like inherently bad, I guess, about vultures. They perform a service that like maybe, nobody else wants to do. So it's probably a good thing that they're there. But it also is like that nature. I mean, it kind of goes back to what you were saying that I'm interested in is the man versus nature kind of elements in this, as well as like humans versus themselves and humans versus other humans and things like that. But you also have like nature, which people are trying to control.
Yes.
But nature persists even when people try to control it. And that's, the vultures, and also you're trying not to look at some of these parts of nature. Like people don't want to think about death or decay or that, one day your body is going to be dust again or whatever. And yet it's true. Like whether you want to face it or not, it's still there.
Well, here's something, and I know you've talked about this with other films, but I didn't know if it applies here. So we've got 4 drivers. And I was wondering again if each driver was actually an element, because we see, a lot. Again, I think of that smoking shot with Nilo, right? And then we have so much more blue with Serrano than the others. We do see blue in the others, but it's like that's kind of, what I associate Serrano with is blue. And then he is, on the water. He does make that drive. Possibly you could say that we actually have Dominguez as heir because he's very much an opportunist.
Yeah, but I don't know. I might go Earth with him more because he's like covered in dirt at all times.
Oh.
He's actually like dusty at the end of it, and yeah, I mean maybe that's where I'd go with that.
I don't know if it fits.
It's hard. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, it's just
I see that all the time, probably even when it's not there. But Friedkin is so symbolically slanted. You know, he loves symbolism that I would think he would take any opportunity to put that in. Like, I see it always in Terrence Malick movies, which is another heavily symbolic filmmaker. In a successful way, in my opinion. Maybe not all the time. I know people complain about Terrence Malick movies too. But The Thin Red Line in particular, I love. And there's an unbelievable amount of elemental symbolism in that movie. So yeah, I'd be interested. I'd watch this again just to see if it's there.
Well, I mean, it's definitely in the shots. I mean, when
the colors, all the colors that you talked about.
I mean, we have, like these flying overhead aerial shots, right, of the terrain. So I would go air, fire, obviously, with like the oil burning, water, we see that, in varying stages. I mean, again, we also see Dominguez at the beginning when he comes up, out of his bed and he walks to the water hose and then he starts drinking from it like a dog.
Nilo, like washing his head.
Yeah, I think with him, maybe he does his head too, but I think it's more with him I associate it with the face. But yeah, it's the same, like, kind of wheelhouse. And, Earth, I mean, we see a ton of Earth. So, I mean, Earth, air, fire, water, we do see in the imagery. And again, it's like, this natural magic that I'm trying to come back to. It's like finding the magic in practical things. I mean, and then again, my favorite, this guy Agrippa. You guys ever hear about this motherfucker? You know what I mean? I mean, he was hot shit back in the day.
Stop trying to make Agrippa.
Yeah, I want Agrippa to be so right. Watch somebody look it up and go, this motherfucker has no idea who he is. I bet he Wikipedia'd it. I did about 10 minutes ago. But
well, no, I mean, I think it's because it came from the discussion of us trying to figure out, the title. Like, okay, Wages of Fear, right. I got no trouble. Like, that's pretty obvious why that's called that. We got it. But Sorcerer is such a weird name for, like...
Yeah.
I mean, and I kept thinking, like, why? And then Sorcerer is the name of the second truck, or what I'm thinking of is the second truck, because I'm feeling, Roy Scheider's character Dominguez / Jackie Scanlon is the main character, like in the way that Mario is, but he's driving Lazaro, not Sorcerer. So the second truck that blows up is Sorcerer. So why is it called that? And I think this is where you were kind of digging to try to figure it out.
I didn't even know the other truck was called Lazaro, by the way. You mentioned that earlier. I'm like, Lazaro?
It says it right on the hood.
I missed that. I don't know how I missed that. I mean, I don't know if that name has any significance. That might help us. That might help us.
Maybe it was, yeah.
Well, that's Lazarus.
Oh.
Yeah, rising from the dead.
There you go.
Look at that. Boom. Yeah, all right. Yeah. So, I mean, we got that. And then that truck literally was resurrected as well.
Yeah. But Sorcerer, like,
there you go.
I still have a lot of questions. And, like, is that the right title for this movie? Why is it called that? Like, if you start thinking about it, because to me, this movie is kind of devoid of magic in a lot of ways. Like, and except for that, like, native guy who's like running around and we don't know what his deal is.
Well, the tree, you can explain that practically, but the timing on it and the way that it comes in actually makes me think of like Poltergeist, when like the tree like comes in.
Oh yeah.
That's, so I feel like there is a supernatural element, particularly in the timing, and that he's coming out to help someone and then nature's like, no. It's...
But again, nature is not magic. Nature is nature. So for me, it's like, there is no... Like, magic is something that... I don't know. I guess it depends on how you define magic. To me, magic would be something that you use to, like, manipulate the environment to make things easier, make things better, to do something you can't naturally do. And there's no magic in this place. Like, it's a very bad place.
Like bad magic.
Yeah.
Like
something evil, yeah. Well, I feel like Mother Earth is pissed, right? and she's literally on fire.
Well, that's for sure. I mean, I can see that.
So she's pissed. She's like, I'm done with this. She's doing everything she can to stop it. And then you have these assholes showing up who just want to keep the cycle going. So,
and it's all because of greed. Everything is greed driven. And that's the thing, like, everyone is greedy here. Like, even you could argue that, like, the 4 drivers are driven by greed too. I mean, not because they want more than they deserve, or I don't know how you want to phrase it, but they want money. They want something. They're, looking to get something that would benefit themselves.
Yeah.
So they are driven by greed in the same way that, the corporate shill guys are driven by greed as well.
Well, in Wages of Fear, we actually have that one line from Joe where he's like, says something along the lines of there is no use for women. It's like, men like us, we have no use for women. And I'm like, okay, how?
And
what?
Then Mario's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, yes. I mean, Mac's point, Mario sucks. Yeah. Yes. And it's just like, worst. It's like, again, it's like people want to why does everyone have a fucking relationship with Mario? This reminds me of high school when I couldn't get a fucking date. They all wanted to date Mario. You know what I mean? It's all right. I've worked out great in the end. But, it's just like, it's really interesting.
I think Mario sucks. Yeah. So you're safe here.
Oh, yeah. But it's just like, like Mario, it's like, again, you come back to his place. It's like, hey, come to my bed. This is cool. I got all these naked women up. That's super cool, right? Yeah, man. Isn't that sweet? All right. Like what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm going to go steal my roommate's clothes. He makes me pasta every night. He's the nicest man on the planet.
Sometimes, he sleeps with me, but you're here tonight. So I figured, why not? Let's change it up, right? You can't have pasta every night. Like what's going on? What's going on, Mario? Yeah, and it's very what they do with women in both films, with the exception, I'd say, of Serrano's wife, because I feel that she's outside of this, is fully disgusting. It's fully disgusting.
Well, they barely even have women in it. I mean, well, that's the thing, right? Like, I read that Steve McQueen was like the first choice to play Scanlon / Dominguez. And he said he would only do it if Friedkin put his wife, Ally McGraw, in the movie. And Friedkin was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So McQueen's like, all right, well, I'm not going to do that. So I guess that's how it is. And I'm like, well, what the hell would Ally McGraw have even done in this movie? Like, either
crawl around like a dog?
Yeah. I mean, either she's the French wife or like the mysterious prostitute person, whatever this Agrippa person is supposed to be. Like, Ally McGraw, not really the right casting here.
No. I mean, what I loved about Agrippa is that, again, it was not what a lot of people would term as traditionally attractive, but it's really a beautiful person, and people are still drawn to her anyway, and they really like her. And I liked that, because the first film, Wages of Fear, where we had like that character, again, it was really driven by looks and sex and, just kind of this, I don't know, fantasy princess vibe. I felt like that they were going with
Cinderella cleaning up the place. Yeah.
Except the ending of Cinderella is the worst in Wages of Fear.
I feel like Clouseau kind of maybe got off on torturing his wife, though, because she had to eat rotten fish. Like, the actress had to eat rotten fish for a scene in Les Diaboliques. And I mean, Vera was only in 3 movies.
Wow.
Those 2, and I'm not sure what the third one is, but I'm wondering now.
Why did he put his wife through that?
I didn't realize that was his wife. I remember seeing the name of Jesus
Vera
Christ.
Clouseau was Henri Georges Clouseau's wife.
I mean, it's fucked up no matter who it is. But if, like, you're the one with your hand on the lever and you go to the person that you've chosen to be with for life, hey, honey, I just want you to go eat shit. Just eat shit right there on screen. Sounds good. No. That's harsh, man. That's, I mean, wow, man. That's revelatory.
I mean, and
they're not, and Yves Montand, not a good guy either.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, from what I've heard. quite the womanizer. I don't like that term. Quite the cheater on his wifer. He was. But
The dog, the true dog.
Yeah, I bet you he has those nudie pics
Well,
up by his bed.
I guess that's just Mario. He's Mario in real life. A lot of times people play exactly who they are. Jack Nicholson has never not played Jack Nicholson, I don't think. So it's kind of that kind of a deal.
Well, y'all, any final thoughts on Wages of Fear or Sorcerer?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Boy, we've really wrung it out with both of these. So
I've wanted to for
I
so
have too.
long.
I've been thinking about it so
long.
much.
For years, we were like, if we can just talk about this with some people.
Yeah, we're psyched about this.
Yeah.
Well, both movies had troubled productions, and that's something that I learned in the trivia. And both had the directors didn't get their first choice of actor in the lead role, and that had a kind of a ripple effect for the supporting cast. But I'm glad, personally,
me too,
for how it all shook out. I think these are great casts.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in Sorcerer, I'm happier that Roy Scheider is a great actor anyway. I know that he and Friedkin had their major issues, and Friedkin said some not great things about him even after the fact. But yeah, because McQueen didn't get cast, he wasn't able to get the other people that he wanted either, because they were like, well, I don't mind being second bill to Steve McQueen, but I don't want to be second bill to anybody else. So he ended up getting these other people, and I love that I don't know who those guys are. I mean, the guy that plays Serrano in particular, I think, is phenomenal. Bruno Creme, I'm assuming is how you say it, because he is French. And that's about as close as I can get to saying something French in a good way.
I think he's incredible. I just didn't want to dive in
to his name
and beef his name out. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, the fact that I don't know those guys helps me, to get into it a little bit more, because they, it's believable that they're in this situation, and they're really good actors, and it's a tough situation. Like, you can tell these people are really in a terrible kind of an environment, and dealing with some really gross kind of situations, but it works. They do a good job.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, Steve McQueen, I like very much, and I like his films, but Steve McQueen would be too competent and driven, in my opinion. With Roy Scheider, you can feel that, he doesn't know what's going on, and there's more happening. But like Steve McQueen, I feel like his defining performance is like The Getaway. That's what I think about. And
then he's a cool guy. Like, that's the whole thing. Steve McQueen is so cool.
He's like, hey, all right.
Like, Roy Scheider is not cool. Like, he is not good at anything in this. Like, he's not the best at anything. He's not, I don't know. And he's not even comfortable with himself. Like, Steve McQueen always seems very comfortable in his own skin. Like, that's not the right kind of person for this.
Talk to them about what you said if Jack Nicholson was in it. This was good.
Oh, I don't remember.
All right, so we're watching.
The other person that they talked about that Friedkin thought about was Jack Nicholson. I don't know.
What you said was, you're like, it was actually during the interrogation scene you told me this, and you're like, if Jack Nicholson was in this would be bullshit. These guys would just want to go out and have some beers with him.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, like, I just think Jack Nicholson. Like, I mean, I think about Jack Nicholson at this time, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or something. Like, he's kind of unflappable in a lot of ways. Yeah. So, you need somebody that is super flappable.
Yeah.
And I don't find that Jack Nicholson is. I love Jack Nicholson. I think he's actually like one of my favorite actors of all time.
Yeah.
But he is unflappable in a way that Dominguez cannot be.
Yeah, it's like the George C. Scott thing from earlier, who incredible, but it's just like, that guy, you're not going to stop him. No. He will run through a cement wall and it will be real. And you'll go, oh, all right.
I mean, he will eat a person if he has to. Like, George C. Scott will just be like,
we're back on this.
Going to eat a person.
He's
a cannibal.
Oh, Jesus, that's good. That's good. That's good. Oh my god.
Asterisk.
Oh my
George C.
God.
Scott may or may not be a cannibal. I do not actually. Disclaimer, I'm not aware of George C. Scott's cannibal status.
Alleged cannibalism. Well, on that note, I think we should wrap it up, y'all.
Yeah.
It's really been a pleasure talking to you guys about this. And thanks for bringing these films. It was a first time watch for both Mac and me.
Oh, great.
Awesome.
And these are great.
I'm glad we
Great
could
picks.
force you to watch some of the bleakest. Or
No, you can force us to watch films anytime. These are great ones.
yeah, it's like congratulations, I'm sorry. It's kind of like congratulations, you got to see these great films. I'm sorry, these films are very, very dire. Yeah, not exactly
We
a
can
good
take it.
time.
I had a good time,
a
especially
good
with
time.
Wages of Fear. Like, it was tense. It was in suspense the whole time. But, well, that first hour, though, I mean, I think it's just great setting up the rest of the movie. So that
Yeah.
part was pretty relaxing. I don't know. A relaxing tour of hell. I don't know. But,
Yeah, thanks
No,
for
but,
joining us in our journey to hell.
yeah.
Our
Yeah.
two-part journey to hell.
Well, and what's really good,
Well,
Christina, is behind you. Like I see, like, I don't know if that's a poster or a rug. That kind of reminds me of the colors that we have at the end of Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, that was that belonged to my mom, and so that's a rug that she had. I'm not sure the origin of it, but
It's really
it's a
pretty.
little piece of my mom. Yeah,
That's
Yes,
fun.
good rug.
Well, thanks again for joining us, John and Georgia. Why don't you plug your podcast one more time, and maybe something that's coming up on the pod we can look forward to?
Sure. We are, so we're Comfort Films Podcast. You can find us on Instagram to keep up with what our latest news is, or listen to us on any podcast platform. We are wrapping up a month on martial arts. So we did Enter the Dragon and kind of a whole discussion on Jackie Chan movies, and in particular Mr. Nice Guy, that just came out this week. And we had a guest, Chris Whitty from Film Folk UK, on that episode. We have one more episode of martial arts, and then we're going to do a month of horror films. Again, this is, as I had alluded to earlier, sometimes we do traditional comfort movies, and sometimes we do things that are maybe only comforting to us. But every time October rolls around, we're really excited because it gives us an excuse to do horror movies. So we're going to do a few zombie-themed horror movies for sure. We haven't exactly nailed everything down, but follow us on Instagram and you'll see when those come out. I think we're launching October with Night of the Living Dead, the original George Romero film. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Mr. Nice Guy happening now. Next week, we've got a great guest, Frank Bonanno, for the Raid Redemption. That closes out our martial arts month. Yeah, what a incredible movie. And then from that, we dive into our horror month. And yeah, we're going to start off with Night of the Living Dead. So,
and then
a lot of
probably
cool stuff.
Shaun of the Dead for some horror comedy. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We love these types of movies. Last year we did a huge supersized John Carpenter month. This time we're doing some zombie and maybe Romero type stuff throughout the rest of the month. Yeah, it's hard. We love it so much. It's like, oh God, I have to pick 4 out of the million movies that I like. But we're looking forward to that. So definitely tune in. Follow us on Instagram and see, what we're doing next. And we are almost to 100 episodes. So we have plenty of back episodes that you can check out and see if we've done your favorite your favorite comfort movie. If not, send us a message and tell us what that would be.
Yes.
We will consider doing an episode on that.
Yes, and we also have a great episode with World of Horror in which we talked about Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights, The Legend of Ricky Bobby. And that was really fun. And that was from our sports month, our Spectator Sports Month last month. So be sure to check that out. Yes. And, if you want to look at any other themes, every month is a new theme. So if you say, hey, I like this, we might be doing it. So you can check us out. Comfort Films Podcast on YouTube, on Instagram. You can take a look on comfortfilmspodcast.com. We also have some cool stuff on there, including essays from guests, including a little essay from Christina, which is incredible, by the way, from Talladega Nights. She brought philosophy to Ricky Bobby. It's really great. And thank you so much for having us on. It's always such a good time to be hanging out with you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks. We completely agree. Thank you for joining us for this episode and for all your support. It means the world of horror to us truly. Next time, we're going to be looking at animated horror films with Wendell and Wild from the US and the Unicorn Wars from Spain and France. We also have a special show coming up with friend of the show, Stephen McDonald from Drag Mitch to Hell. He will be joining me to discuss the 1981 Australian thriller, Road Games. We would welcome your support in the form of a 5-star review or thumbs up on your preferred listening platform. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, we'd love to have you join us there. And you can now subscribe to the podcast. But we will settle for you just telling all your friends all about us. Mac, what do you have going on?
Well, you could follow me on Instagram and Tumblr at Macaritaville.
Remember, WoHos, we love you and don't go into the basement.
Yay!